is it really a problem? Like, what are the pros and cons? Like, why do you feel you need to stop drinking it? And I was thinking about it, and it doesn't even serve me. I do not feel more energized after drinking it. If anything, I probably feel a little bit more lethargic during the day after drinking it, which sometimes makes me want to drink another one, which means it's a problem. And then if I'm drinking it every day and I'm having troubles not drinking one every day, that means that this substance is now controlling me. I'm no longer in control. And I don't want to have things in my world, in my environment, that I'm not in control of, because that's not how I operate. This is A Day with Clay. Guys, thank you so much for being here today. I wanted to share a moment with you guys where I celebrate I am 2 months clean. And just because it may not be a class 1 narcotic that has been registered on a list of harmful substances by the government, it is still under the same category as things like tobacco and alcohol. But this drug is caffeine, more specifically coffee. And today I'm going to talk about why I've decided to quit drinking coffee. So a little bit of backstory here. I was never a big coffee drinker as a young person. When I was a teenager or even in my early 20s, I never really drank coffee. It wasn't until I worked in the oil field that I started drinking more coffee, when we started having a lot more time sitting around in lunchroom, the old hurry up and wait mentality, waiting for permits, waiting for this or that, and just honestly passing time, and you're tired from many long days of work in a row, so you do what everyone else is doing and you just start drinking coffee. And I would say that I wasn't an actual coffee drinker until I got into real estate, especially when I started studying for my exam and I locked myself in my office for 2 weeks to cram study, is when I truly started drinking coffee on a more regular basis. So coffee drinking for me has always been a weird thing. It's never really been something that I truly like. Like the actual coffee itself, I never drink coffee black because honestly, I think it's disgusting. It's only the matter that I cram so many things into my coffee to make it a delicious concoction that I actually drink it. Like 2 weeks ago, I would have been having raw milk, some honey, maybe some cinnamon, maybe blend up some butter and make it a bulletproof coffee, maybe in a little vanilla extract. And I really enjoyed that drink. However, the original substance of the drink itself, coffee, I never actually really enjoyed. Which is funny. It's kind of like an evolutionary thing. Anything that has a label on it that's an acquired taste that you don't necessarily like as a kid, but then it's kind of normalized in society to drink as an adult, like beer, coffee, any alcohol for that matter. And even as kids, I think that there is an evolutionary point to vegetables that don't taste good, and our parents make us eat it and make it normal anyways. And I'm going to make a whole nother video about that, of why I don't eat a whole lot of vegetables, which eventually when I make that video will live right up here. But anyways, many people think I'm absolutely nuts, or they just flat out don't understand or see a reason why coffee would be a problem in the first place. So that's the exact purpose for me making this video. I'm also 2 weeks clean of smoking weed on a daily basis. I still smoked it on the weekend with my friends when we were hanging out, but that's another video that I'm going to talk about probably in like a week or two that's going to live right up there as well. Okay, so there's 4 main reasons that I want to go through in detail as to why I'm stopping drinking coffee. Number 1 is the history of coffee and how it came about and what it actually does to your body. Number 2 is the effect that caffeine has on one's brain, how it's actually an addictive property, and it's just another source for toxins and chemicals to get into your body, and I will explain it all. So let's rewind like 100 years back to like the Industrial Revolution. Coffee was brought into large manufacturing plants to get more work out of their workers, because they introduced the 15-minute coffee break. Because what caffeine is actually doing, it's working on your adenosine system. And adenosine is a chemical in your brain that tells your brain that you're tired. So what caffeine does is it actually blocks those receptors in your brain, stopping you from feeling tired. So caffeine doesn't actually give you energy. It just blocks the receptors in your body that are telling you that you're tired. And because of this strategic implementation to make more effective workers, it's been crowned as kind of slave juice. So back to adenosine, it's part of your natural circadian rhythm clock inside your body that deals with your wake and sleep cycles. So not only does coffee disrupt that, but coffee also allows other chemicals to flow more freely through your body and brain. And those chemicals can be things like adrenaline and cortisol. And those don't sound like anything that we need extra piled on top of us in this day and age. Stress isn't all bad, but too much stress is definitely a bad thing. So with having an understanding that every body works differently and will metabolize different chemicals in your body differently, For some people, caffeine can stay in your system and have like a half-life of up to 12 hours after you drink it. And even though some people may think that their afternoon coffee is serving them well to get them through the rest of the day and they fall asleep just fine, what you may not notice is it's actually disrupting, because it messes with your circadian system. It messes with the deep sleep cycles that are actually restorative. So even though you may get the same amount of sleep, you're not getting the same quality of sleep and rest. And again, I've got a lot of videos like this canned up, and there's going to be another one right here talking all about the importance of sleep for recovery. And I've spent the last like 4 or 5 years tracking my sleep. I've been wearing this Whoop strap, which is actually like, it's honestly the best fitness tracker that I've found, and I've stuck with it for all these years, and I absolutely love it. I get to see and track what kind of habits are affecting my sleep and my recovery positively or negatively. And I'm going to link a video right up here for that as well, because honestly, this has been a game changer for me figuring out what my body actually needs. So knowing all this information that I just talked about and understanding how it's been normalized in society when really it's not really helping people function better, that alone is a reason that made me scratch my head and wonder, like, why am I drinking this? Why do I even need this? The societal system in place actually wants us to be addicted to coffee, which leads me to my next point, which is caffeine's actual effect on your brain. Okay, so there's a part of your brain somewhere in the front mid area, I don't know exactly, but it's called your hippocampus. And one of the key functions of your hippocampus is to take short-term memories, things you've experienced, seen, and sensed throughout the day, and while you're sleeping, it stores them as long-term memories by attaching them to emotions, because that's how we remember things. We tie things to emotions and experiences. And caffeine actually damages that system, which makes it a dissociative, which once I learned that, it made so much sense, because after reflecting, I found that there were so many days where, I'd be working on my computer or hitting roadblocks or hitting stressful situations, and I'd be like, man, I need a coffee. And I'd go downstairs and I'd make a coffee, not realizing that I'm using this tool as a crutch, because it's disassociating me with remembering in great detail the experiences that I'm having. So in short, it essentially makes your memory worse, because like I said, it associates memories with experiences and emotions. And the caffeine prevents the hippocampus from doing its job in associating memories from that day to emotions. And honestly, whether you blame the corporate or the media or large corporations or the elites, they are using many mind control tactics to keep people programmed a certain way, which in turn makes us more susceptible to their propaganda and makes us a lot more suggestible. And this behavior, of course, suits them better because it allows them to have a better grip of control. So let's see if I can whip up an example here. So imagine the government raised taxes, but that was 2 years ago, and you don't really associate that memory of them making taxes with creating hardship in your life, because you're no longer associating the memories with emotions. Therefore, you don't remember it as much. Therefore, when they go and implement another tax hike, it's just like, they already did it once before. It wasn't that bad. But it's not that it wasn't that bad. It's the fact that you don't remember how bad it was, because you're no longer associating that particular memory with a negative emotion. And I know it's a bit of a dark rabbit hole, but I'm going to make a whole other episode on mind control tactics that governments and corporations have been using for many, many years through media. And it's going to be right here as well one day when it's done. And there's actually a really good book that I have as a resource. The title of it is The Caffeine Blues by Stephan Cherniske. I'm going to link that down below in the show notes. So if you want to go get it on Amazon, you can go and read it for yourself, because it explains all this stuff. Probably a hell of a lot. Actually, no, I know for a fact it explains it a hell of a lot better than I can. So knowing that caffeine is a tool that's kind of been planted on us by design, that actually takes me right to my next point, which is it's actually addictive. And I don't need to read a double-blind controlled study trial for that to tell me that it's addictive, because I've experienced it in my own life. I've watched friends and family that get all twitchy and anxious, and their behavior changes if they don't have their coffee at a particular time of day. And I've also seen caffeine withdrawals. One time, someone quite close to me, we went out for dinner for their birthday. And while we're out for dinner, we all had food. I believe she had like a Bellini, and she found herself not even being able to finish her birthday drink because she was feeling nauseous and woozy and had all these symptoms that she didn't quite know where they were coming from. And as she retraced her steps, she realized it's because she didn't have her coffee that day, because her schedule was out of whack, because it was a birthday, so she did things differently, and she forgot to have her coffee. That's straight up withdrawal. So I actually tried quitting coffee a few months ago. Obviously, it didn't go too well because just 2 weeks ago, I was drinking coffee every day. And one of the things I tried to do was actually tried to do a substitution. I had a mushroom-based coffee, and it was actually so good. And it has such low trace amounts of caffeine in it that it didn't disrupt your sleep cycle. And not only that, all the adaptogens in the mushrooms, they were so good for you. It was a company called GanoExcel. I'm going to make a whole video about that at some point, which will also live right here. I definitely do want to go back to drinking that mushroom coffee because it was actually so delightful. And like I said, it had other ingredients, like the one in particular that I liked had ginseng and tongkat ali, which is very good for your overall health and vitality. So when I explained to some of my friends that I was going to be stopping drinking coffee, quitting, one of them asked me some good questions. And I said, well, like, why do you feel you need to stop drinking it? And I was thinking about it, and it doesn't even serve me. I do not feel more energized after drinking it. If anything, I probably feel a little bit more lethargic during the day after drinking it, which sometimes makes me want to drink another one, which means it's a problem. And then if I'm drinking it every day and I'm having troubles not drinking one every day, that means that this substance is now controlling me. I'm no longer in control. And I don't want to have things in my world, in my environment, that I'm not in control of, because that's not how I operate. So that was kind of a big moment where I knew I had to cut the cord. Man, there's so many different memes out there on the internet about, people being useless without their coffee, their attitudes being poor without their coffee, wanting to drink not massive amounts of coffee, and all these different memes. And I honestly just think it's just a spamming of people bringing this to light through jokes to make it more socially acceptable to all be sharing the same addiction. Because like I said, it may not be a hard drug. It may not be a class 1 narcotic, but just like tobacco, just like alcohol, caffeine is a drug. It alters your state. There's even religions out there that don't allow you to have caffeine within it because it alters your state, alters your mind, and alters your consciousness. I think the addiction is kind of an epidemic. One of those silent ones. Okay, the next topic is a little bit more nuanced and very specific to situations, but it's toxin potential. So there's 2 toxins in particular I'm talking about. One of them is mold and the other one is glyphosates. So pretty much anything that comes from the ground that is like a grain or a bean is highly susceptible to mold. And then on top of that, pretty much everything that's grown outdoors is susceptible to pesticides such as glyphosates, which I'm going to make a whole nother video talking about glyphosates that will live right there when that one's done as well. It's kind of sad. Everywhere else you go in the modern world, over in Europe, they all have regulations and safety limits on the amount of glyphosates and pesticides you're allowed to use on crops, but they don't have that in the United States or Canada. And equally the same, there's acceptable limits of mold exposure that beans are allowed to have when being sold in Europe. So shitty beans that can't be sold in other parts of the area are literally being shipped to North America to be sold to consumers there. You can mitigate the risk of having a moldy bean or having glyphosates by getting locally sourced, or as local as you can, organic coffee, because then that means they have to abide to some rules of how much pesticides they're allowed to use. Now, as for mold, it's funny because during the widespread use of glyphosates or pesticides or Agent Orange or whatever you want to call it on food, they also discovered that, hey, this is actually a great desiccating agent, which means it dries it so that it doesn't get moldy. So a lot of crops and vegetables and coffee beans, they're all getting double dipped with glyphosates because not only does it keep the pests away, but then once it gets to the harvesting process, it keeps them from being moist and therefore allows them not to collect mold. So it's a really double-edged sword. You're either choosing to have coffee that's dried with glyphosate so you don't have mold, so then you're ingesting glyphosates all day, or you run the risk of there being some mold content in your coffee. Now, a lot of people say the dose is the poison for all these different toxins that people introduce in their bodies, and I totally agree with that. But if you're missing that information, you don't know what the actual limit is or what that dose is, then you're just blindly throwing poisons into your body without caring how much actually could be dangerous to you. And you're only fine until you're not fine, and suddenly you've got a bunch of issues in your stomach because of the over amount of chemicals and toxins in your food. And toxins coming from mold, whether they're in your food or they're in your house, in your environment, can wreak a lot of havoc on people's bodies and their brains. One of the biggest symptoms that people that report having mold toxicity levels that are high when they go get tested is rapid brain fog, where they can't concentrate, they can't think, their brain isn't processing information the same way. And that's personally not something that I want to experience. I know I'm just stopping drinking coffee now, but I actually quit drinking Starbucks coffee about 2 years ago. Starbucks is I'm not even gonna start. I don't have time for it on this video. I'm going to make another video about Starbucks and put it up here because I do not like Starbucks. And by the way, all these videos, if you're watching this right when this video is released and you don't see any iCards up there with links going to the new videos, relax. It's because I just haven't made them yet, but they're in the pipeline and they're gonna be made and they're gonna be linked there eventually. So a big question people have been asking me while I've been on this coffee quitting journey is, well, what are you gonna have as a substitute? And I'm actually going to make a whole nother video about that. It's going to be the best caffeine substitutes and it's going to live right here. But for right now, I'm making homemade bone broth, and that's the hot drink that's full of nutrients and goodness that I have every morning currently. And guys, I just want to reiterate, there's no superiority complex. I don't look down on people that drink coffee. Like, I was just drinking coffee 2 weeks ago. How could I possibly do that? All this is bringing the information that I've been learning and implementing into my life to other people's awareness so that they, as adults, can make informed choices about what they want to do with their bodies, what they want to do with their life, and how they live it. That's the beautiful thing about being an adult. Especially in a time like this when we've got access to so much information, we get to go out there and sift through the information and see what rings true for us, and then make the choice on how we want to proceed. And I just happen to be in a position where I take my health very seriously to a point where I don't want to be filling it with all these different chemicals and things that are harmful to it, because I want to live as long as possible, being as vibrant and with as much vitality as possible. And I want to be able to run for as long as possible. I want to be able to move as well as possible for as long as possible with as little pain, so I can enjoy every moment that I have of this life. And if that's not the choice other people want to make, that's fine. I don't care. But I'm going to continue to share my perspective with people. And if they decide that they want to take the information and look it up for themselves and confirm it and make a change for their life, then hallelujah, that's great. But that's what this is all about, guys. Welcome to Clayton's World. So that's it for today's episode, guys. Thanks for listening to me ramble about my caffeine addiction and how I'm cutting it out of my life. And we will see you on the next one. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.